What's up, guys? Block FPL here, and today let's talk about Game Week 9, but let's also look ahead and talk about some fixture swings. We've got a couple of teams that have some good fixtures, and they could provide us with some good FPL options to bring into our teams. So, also, I am in a new location with much slower internet, but I drove like 17 hours to get here, so that's why this video may be out a little late. And yeah, the Christmas tree is behind me for some reason. It's already up when I got here. So let's get into Game Week 9. The first thing I have to talk about is my double defense with West Ham and Chelsea both getting clean sheets. So the reason I brought in these West Ham defenders was because of their fixtures. They played Sheffield and Fulham, which is great fixtures. Probably the two best you can have for defenders. And after this, their fixtures aren't incredible. So this is sort of a negative fixture swing. And even though they've been great for me in only 2 weeks, I am considering getting rid of one of them. It would probably be Masuaku, just because I would think that if they do switch to a back four, he would be less likely to start than Soufal. But I don't think they'll do that. And also, Soufal has went up 0.1 in price since I've got him. But looking at these fixtures, they're not incredible, so I can see each of the next 3 teams scoring on them. And there are some teams with some good fixtures coming up. And one of those players or teams is Leicester. Now, Leicester, would you look at who they play? They play Fulham and Sheffield United the next 2 weeks. What a coincidence, and I already have one of them. So I could bring in Castagna if I wanted to do that, and then double up on Leicester and sort of keep the trend going here. Or I could get Fofana. He's more likely to start. I'm not so sure about the Castagna starting situation. I'll have to wait till the team news press conferences on Friday to get information about that. But I think Castagna could be a great option. Fulham and Sheffield United simply can't finish that well. They did have some chances against West Ham, both of them. Obviously, if you watch the games, you know that. The McBurney hitting the post and Fulham missing the penalty. But those teams aren't good, so you would expect some mistakes from those teams. Now, Chilwell and Zuma, they also have some fixtures that are sort of tougher than the last two. Tottenham, Leeds, Everton, and then, Wolves is a pretty easy fixture at the moment. But the next 3 aren't easy. So, yes, I targeted these first 2 fixtures, but now it could be a little bit more difficult. So maybe I make a defender transfer and bring in a Leicester defender over these next 2. Talking about Leicester, Game Week 9 didn't go well for them, but it's against Liverpool. I would give them some respect in the next 2 game weeks. So Grealish captainers, unlucky. Grealish owners, unlucky, really. I was probably wrong about this game. I expected Brighton to be worse. I was right about a lot of things this week, but I was certainly not right about that. I was talking about how Grealish was potentially a good captain option and probably second best to Fernandez, and it didn't work out that way. Fernandez, of course, if you're on FPL Twitter, or maybe you're just in a household with somebody that didn't have Fernandez, they're probably salty about it. Not probably, but there are a few people talking about how it's just lucky. And, but we knew this going into the game week. Like in my deadline stream, I said one good thing about having Fernandez is, he can just get one lucky penalty. And that's exactly what happened. And he's been doing these lucky things for a while now, but he's also a fantastic player, as we saw again midweek in his game where, as I've mentioned before, Fernandez is a great finisher, and this is probably overrated. Underlooked. Overlooked is what I was going to say initially. It's overlooked a lot because, he's not a striker or whatever, but he's a better finisher than Rashford, for example. There's no doubt about that. He gets his chances and he scores them. So I like Fernandez again. I think with the fixtures they have coming up, it's just more the same. Pretty simple fixtures. Not super easy, but middle of the road where they should get wins. Besides against Man City, but they do have that Sheffield United matchup Game Week 13. That could be very nice. But I think the matchup against Southampton this week could be pretty good for them. Southampton did just concede 1.5 expected goals to Wolves, which is 3 times what Leeds gave up to Wolves. So yeah, Southampton could be a option where I could see Manchester United scoring 2 goals against them. But who knows what happens in that game. Manchester United, you could consider them hard to predict. So I also have Watkins, goes into the whole Aston Villa fail category. Calvert-Lewin it's just fantastic. Again, started off with him this season. He's been amazing. If you captain him, congratulations. His upcoming fixtures, next two, pretty simple. After that, I could understand if people are thinking about getting rid. I'm not sure if it'll actually happen for me, though. And same thing goes for Kane. He's dealing with those bad fixtures right now, though. And if I was wildcarding, would I have him? Probably not, but that doesn't mean that he's worth a transfer out. The next two after the Chelsea game is Arsenal and Crystal Palace. Arsenal, mid-table team, of course, proved me wrong. And then we got Crystal Palace, who are a mid-table or lower team, obviously. So solid matchups after this week. If you have another transfer to make, I'd make it, and then you're good with Harry Kane for 11 and 12, and then we'll go from there when the fixtures get tougher over 13 and 14. But I think having one Spurs attacker is certainly fine. And even if you have two, I mean, if Tottenham just have another good game, I mean, people are talking like they're necessarily going to fail. It's like Tottenham have been really good this year, so it's not necessarily going to happen in these fixtures. Zaha not playing at all was a big downside for my team because it meant that James Justin came in. We'll have to get more news about Zaha. He is an obvious sort of transfer out plan for a lot of people right now, including me, but we'll see what happens with that, because if he is out, there's a great option, which is Jota, who has great fixtures coming up. So this week I went up to 134K from 186K or something like that. So pretty good week, 69 points. I will take it. I did see a lot of better weeks, though, for other people. So let's talk about Jota. So if we look at Liverpool's fixtures, obviously Salah will be back, which is great for him as well. But Brighton, Wolves, Fulham, next three, pretty good. Then one tough matchup and then some more just good ones. It's a long stretch here where having two Liverpool players at least could be very nice. So I think Zaha to Jota for a lot of people is the obvious move if Zaha is out this week. But if Zaha isn't out, I mean, really, why would you get rid of him? I mean, I'm sort of playing devil's advocate because I understand how good of an option Jota is. I mean, 6.6 with the form he's in, he's going to start for Liverpool. It's really almost too good to be true in a way. But Newcastle and West Brom up next for Zaha. So you can't really go wrong for keeping him. I mean, it would be on him if he blanks in those games, not on you, is the way I look at it. So I don't really have a midfielder that I'm desperate to get rid of here. I have Fernandes, Salah, Grealish, Zaha. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. So that would be the only reason why I wouldn't bring in, what's his name? Diogo Jota, if that is the case and I don't bring him in. So speaking of fixture swings, probably the number one I want to talk about is Leicester. So first, let's mention West Ham real quick. On my wild card, obviously, I doubled up on Chelsea and West Ham defense. The reason I got West Ham defenders, yeah, they have some attacking threat, but their clean sheet potential against Fulham and Sheffield, who they played 8 and 9. And obviously, it worked out pretty well. Fulham and Sheffield United, great matchups to have. Well, as I mentioned, Leicester play Fulham and Sheffield United in the exact same order. So it's great because Leicester are also a good team. So you would think it would be even better than the West Ham one, right? But maybe the luck goes the other way. Of course, anything can happen. But let's say Zaha is fit to play, and I'm looking at this team. Of course, Salah is going to be back. I think that would be the most obvious transfer. I mean, I guess it depends on what your thoughts on Aston Villa are, like in terms of their goal threat. But you would expect them to score most games nowadays because of how they're playing. And the same thing with Tottenham. I couldn't really put Zuma in there as well. His fixtures are getting tough as well. I could get rid of Zuma. I wouldn't get rid of Chilwell. He plays every week as far as I'm concerned. So if I got rid of Masuaku, Aston Villa home, not a great matchup. Then in the next couple ones, Manchester United, Leeds, like I wouldn't really want to play him in those either. Long term, it's okay. But I can make a transfer this week to bring in Castagna or Fofana, and I could have that instant Fulham, Sheffield United double up again, not on those two teams, of course, but against them in a good defense. And if Castagna is healthy, of course, the attacking threat is there as well. So that could be very great. And if I was on wildcard, I would probably have Justin, Castagna, and Vardy. Like, I mean, you really have, in my opinion, with a good team in these fixtures, I would definitely do the double up and then probably throw Vardy in there as well because Kane has the tough fixtures right now. So that's where I'm at with potential transfers. I'm looking at Zaha to Jota and also Masuaku to a Leicester defender. I think those are the ways to go. But there's one fixture swing that I haven't really talked about yet, and that is Manchester City. So they play Burnley this week, and that's an okay matchup. And if you know that basically what I've been saying, like what I said in my deadline stream and what I said the video before that, I'm waiting for them to impress me before I get them in. I'm not really giving much thought to the credibility they've earned over the past couple of seasons as like high goal scoring teams. I'm sure it will come at some point this season, but they cost a lot. And as I said, with the midfielders I have, because that's probably like their primary like high scoring position with De Bruyne and Sterling, I'm not desperate to get rid of any of these guys. I mean, there's nothing to say that these players don't outscore the Man City players. Just because they cost more doesn't really mean anything. So, considering I'm not desperate to get rid of them, I'm using this as a game to simply see what Man City are going to do. And if they look good against Burnley, going into this Fulham matchup, and then they have a tough matchup again, but then they play West Brom after that, that could be very good in those two matchups. And they have some captaincy options there. So, with that said, I think the best Man City options right now, like before I've even seen the Burnley game and maybe somebody's impressed me, maybe De Bruyne is playing in like an actual number 10 role and getting shots off or whatnot. I like Cancelo and just any Man City defender you think is going to play, I guess. But Cancelo with some attacking threat, I mean, he's a good crosser of the ball. It's not really your typical left back who crosses with his left foot down the line. It's kind of weird, but Cancelo is a good player, which is always important because it means he can get the assists and goals if they ever come to him. And he probably won't be dropped because of his quality. But he is starting midweek right now, so maybe he does get rotated in the final thing. We're yet to see if he gets subbed off in this game, which would be a good sign, but I doubt it'll happen. So Cancelo is not really an option for me this week just because of that, and because there's the Leicester defenders, which, in my opinion, are a better option. First of all, you get they're cheaper. I mean, Castagna is not cheaper, but you could go cheaper if you wanted to. And they're two fixtures right now. Instead of having to wait a week for the second good fixture, it's always better to get the points right now than hope for the points in the future, at least in my opinion. Because the further things are in the future, the more likely they are to change, and things change pretty quickly a lot of times in terms of team form, player form, random injuries. Who knows what happens? So I think Leicester defenders beat out Man City for rotation reasons, and Man City, I just don't trust them. Their cost. I think Castagna also has more attacking threat than Cancelo. Maybe that's just me. So I guess for this week, the captaincy options as far as that side of things goes, because the transfers, I'm really going to have to wait and see. But I like Castagna, I like Fofana, and I also like Diogo Jota. So I think those are the main three targets. Oh, yeah, and Vardy. I mean, Kane and Vardy, I wouldn't do it. But not yet. But I will say captaincy options, Vardy is up there. Captaincy options, if we look at these fixtures, West Brom and Sheffield United play each other, so that takes away a lot of the potential good matchups that a big team could have. I mean, Man City, Burnley, you always have to consider them, I suppose. I certainly wouldn't do it. Southampton, Manchester United, I already mentioned. Bruno could be a good option. I'm captaining him as of right now. But Leicester and Fulham, that's probably like the most lopsided matchup, I would say. That could be very good for Vardy, or maybe you take a punt on somebody else, but I don't really say I can see myself doing that. But given Southampton's recent defensive form and the way they kind of give up space a lot of times, and they had that high line debacle against Tottenham, so they've shown that they can collapse, like just completely fall apart defensively. So who knows? Maybe that happens here. There's a chance. At least we know that. I quite like Bruno, but that's mainly because of the quality of his play on penalties, involved in most things Manchester United create. So right now he's my captain, and then the obvious captaincy option that's always there unless he's hurt or ill is Mohamed Salah. Against Brighton, you would expect him to get a return. I would expect Fernandes to get one as well. So that's a decision I'll just have to make at some point. I sort of think Southampton is a slightly easier matchup. Brighton brings some things that can cause trouble for a lot of teams, but I suppose that's more of on the defensive side in terms of Liverpool having to defend Brighton and the whole Lamptey situation. But I like both of them. I think they're both great captaincy options, and there's not too many amazing fixtures. But if you have Vardy, I would probably, I guess I would probably captain him. So yeah, for now, Castagna, maybe Fofana, Jota are the main transfer targets I'm looking at. We got some good fixture swings for Leicester, especially, but Man City as well. And then Liverpool is also big, and that's why I'm looking at some of those players. In terms of Grealish, some people are talking about getting rid of him. I wouldn't. I think you just hold him because I know like Grealish to Jota is like a price range similarity, but I can't make myself get rid of Grealish right now. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. We do have some good teams with some good fixtures. So if I was you, I would consider them. But let me know what you think. Hopefully you had a decent game week 9. Hopefully this video will be out on Thanksgiving, and I will see you next time. Bye.